Hello, I'm Liz Lumley of Finextra, and today I'm speaking to Catherine Banneux of Swift. And we're going to talk a little bit about a survey that Swift has put together looking at intraday liquidity reporting. So can you go through some of the key highlights from the survey?
The survey actually looks into the status of the banks in terms of their implementation of the intraday liquidity monitoring tools. And the results are quite telling. 68% of the banks have started a project around the intraday liquidity monitoring tools, which is good because the banks will have to be ready by the 1st of January to report to their regulator. However, out of this group, only 31% have started with the implementation project and 37% have only started the initial stage of the evaluation. So it leaves 32% of the bank with no project. And the second interesting highlight is with regard to the data challenges that all banks share basically. And these regards on one side the lack of time data, and at the second level also the lack of centralized data. Nearly half of the banks say that they're facing the issue of globalization of their data, so they don't have a global view of their intraday liquidity flows and position.
So did any results of the survey surprise you?
Yes, indeed. The fact that only 31% of the banks started the implementation phase, whilst at the same time recognizing that the data challenges can only be solved at the foundational layer of their liquidity repository, is surprising. The banks may well be given until the 1st of January 2017 to reach the full scope of the reporting, but this is only 2 years long and they have a lot of work to be done.
So what can banks do to really address some of these challenges then?
Well, outside of the regulatory requirements, which still needs to be defined in further details, Swift would advise a pragmatic approach towards the implementation of the liquidity monitoring tools that consist in 4 steps. The first step is really to look at the business, the data model of the banks, trying to look at the priorities and the scope of the project, and that will define the next step. The second step is really to look into more details at which are the data gaps that the banks have today in terms of their main account, main currencies, main correspondent, and define by there what to ask to whom and how to best enhance their current data model. And the third one is really for larger banks to look into the data centralization issues where there are potentially different options to resolve that issue. And the fourth one, and very important, is really to get into the step of building the liquidity data repository and then start to build the monitoring dashboard to look at the visualization of the flows that they will want to monitor and that they will need to report on.
So the survey seems to point towards a strong appetite for collaboration. What are the benefits of that?
Well, that's actually true. 89% of the respondents said that collaboration would be an essential factor, support, to decrease the overall implementation cost for the industry of the tools, and at the same time increase the speed at which the challenges in terms of data would be resolved. And the work has started. So that's the good news. As an example, a new date time field will be added to the debit and credit confirmation messages, the MT900 910. And that's an important feature because 74% of the banks said that they would use primarily this message type to build their liquidity dashboard.